Hello, everyone, and welcome to part two of pricing strategies. In this lecture, we will be covering mainly different types of strategies for pricing our products and services, as well as brand experiences. But I won't be covering too many examples because it's already covered in the book. And my suggestion, once again, if you read the book, you can listen to the lecture again as just like a little bit of a SoundCloud, SoundPod, or whatever. Well, don't get too familiar with me then. Anyways, we'll be covering new product pricing strategies when companies plan to launch a new service or a product. How do they price them, high or low, and for what reasons? And then we'll see the actual product mix pricing when companies do have various products. How do they attach a different type of price according to the mindset of the consumer? And how do we adjust prices along the way in terms of discounting, in terms of price inflation, and what are the reasons for price changes as well? Is it economics? Is it competition? And finally, we will discuss public policy in terms of predatory pricing or not to fool the customer in a way. So with that, let us proceed. Now, there are basically two types of new product pricing. One is pricing high, the other is pricing low. Let's talk about high pricing strategy, which is called market skimming. Well, if you heard the word skim milk, maybe you know what that means now, that you skim off the good part of the milk, which is the fat, and fat is good for all of us, isn't it? And in this strategy, we initially charge higher prices so that we can take the maximum out of our profit margin from the consumer. Now, the consumer will be willing to pay a high price for products such as Apples or PlayStations or even luxury items that they are hoping or perceiving to be high priced. So it's all based on the perceived image of the product, meaning or the brand. If the brand is supposed to be priced high and they have to have a perceived high quality, people will pay a high price for it. So buyers must want the product at that high price. And the cost of producing, and this I'm talking about cost from manufacturer's point of view, in small volume, it of course will hinder their production. It'll cost them higher because they're not selling in high volume. But in the luxury business or in the, I would say, premium market business, small production should not be the reason that you should not even produce a product. It's you test waters and then you initially launch it and then people buy into it, such as the Bentley products as well. And Bentley products in Russia were very popular. Every day one was sold, even though for a loss. Or the Rolls Royce, it takes a lot of cost to develop it. It's tailor made, but people still buy it. People with lots of money who wish to buy that product, that is. So, and the reason for skimming is also that competition should not be able to replicate your marketing strategy. In terms, if you look very carefully, the Apple iPhone, it's a market skimming pricing strategy has been done on it. Samsung tried to copy the nature of it, but when people saw the Samsung Galaxy Note phone, they were a little appalled by the fact that it has a plastic back and a plastic make, unlike the iPhone, which is made of glass. So that caused a little bit of shock, and that's why they priced it slightly lower than the iPhone. So therefore, competition could or Samsung could not compete in the same terms as Apple iPhone, even though it has the most market share. iPhone 6s has come out and it's stolen the market share again. So let's move ahead to the second slide. Now, conversely, or well, I wouldn't say contradictingly, but on the other way, you can also launch a product with a low price to which we call a market penetration strategy. Market penetration initially means when you get into the market, people are afraid or they don't know your brand and they would like to try it out, but not for a high price because it's a risk. And a risk is, initially the higher the risk, the higher the reward, but people don't want that reward right now. So initially we set a lower price in order to penetrate the market quickly and deeply to attract a large number of buyers and also to gain a market share. Now, Asus products, as mentioned over here, and also one of my favorite products, did the same thing here. When they initially launched their laptop, it was a small notebook, 10 inches, and it was for a student market, the student demographic, and they priced it close to $250. and that's a low price compared to the its competition, Toshiba, Fujitsu, HP, and all Packard Bell, which were priced from 300 to $400. So using this technique of price elasticity, the market responded very quickly because the change or drop in price yielded a high demand. That's price elasticity. And the and the benefit to Asus was they were already manufacturers of computer parts. So the more they produced, the less the cost became for them. So they went for, in a way, for mass production, but not mass marketing. So the low price set off what would call, like, their true strength, their true competitive advantage, and therefore they were able to penetrate the market, and now they have slowly and steadily dominated the laptop market as well. Moving ahead. Now, if you see, there are four or five types of actual product mix pricing strategies. There's product line, optional product, captive product, byproduct, and of course, product bundle. And I'll discuss each of them bit by bit. But just remember, the product mix is what we're talking about is your product portfolio, or your mix, your portfolio of the products and services that you have to offer to the consumer. Okay, so this was discussed also in our chapter of the four P's of marketing with the product part. So a product has a line, it has a depth, and it has a width. So you could be selling various type of shampoos, and within the shampoo, the main brands could be L'Oreal, it could be Elsev, it could be Garnier, and below each of them, they could have their own extensions, such as L'Oreal for straight hair, L'Oreal for dyed hair, L'Oreal for curly hair. You get the picture. Okay, so let us proceed. Now, product line pricing, as I said, if you have various lines of brands within your shampoo range, such as L'Oreal, which is premium price, Garnier, medium range, and Elsa, which is low cost strategy price. For a consumer, when they look at the products in terms of its shape and its packaging, the colors they reflect, L'Oreal seems to give a little more premium look. It has the golden sign of insignia of L'Oreal. The shape of the bottle is more curvy, and it's more aesthetically appealing. Whereas compared to the lowest cost, which is Elsev, with the colors are more flat toned, and they don't give off that sort of premium appeal. So you take into account not just the cost difference, but also the customer evaluation of the features, and therefore you price it accordingly, and also against your competition. So L'Oreal can probably compete with maybe Pantene, but Elsev or can compete with maybe Head and Shoulders, and Guardian probably can compete with another brand closer like Timothée. So that's the reason usually they have these sort of different variations of the brands in terms of pricing. You can also look at it in terms of car industry. Now you can buy a car from Volkswagen, which is Volkswagen itself, like Golf, but Volkswagen also owns Bugatti and they also owns Audi. So for them, they've priced it differently, according to the perception of the consumer as well. Now let's talk about optional product pricing. When you have to buy an extra option in a car, such as a GPS or Bluetooth, you may pay extra, or they can offer you to pay at a lower price that you can have all these options right now. Or when you can also say, in terms of buying an accessory, when you buy an iPhone or when you buy a smartphone, there are usually no accessories that come along with it in terms of, let's say, the housing protection or the glass protection or even the insurance. And maybe the seller can tell you that you can get these as an option with a lower price. So it's it's a way to, I would say, increase the product's value by adding something to it. But then there's another type of pricing, which is captive product pricing. This is a very sneaky thing that Gillette is very famous for. Now, Gillette makes razors for men and women. But for men, it was a big problem because at one point, shaving required you to buy new blades. The, the razor itself, the unit of the razor, was not that expensive, but the blades are super expensive. And their new strategy is also to increase the price of the blades, and the quality of the blades degrade within 2 to 3 weeks. Initially, they were high quality. So you cannot use one product without the other part. So, or when you buy a PlayStation and you want to play with the family, you need two remote controls. But they only give you one. So you have to buy the other one at $60 to $80, which is kind of a ripoff if you think. Because initially when you bought like a Nintendo, or 8-bit Nintendo, or you bought the Sega Mega Drive, you got two remote controls together. But then the industry thought, how about we charge extra for the second part? So that's you have to captivate the second part, or in a way you have to complete the product in order to use it. So, or when you buy a car, you have to buy petrol. But petrol and car industries are different. This is coming from the same manufacturer. Now, the fourth one is byproduct pricing. Now, this will cost. Think of terms once again in terms of petrol. Petrol comes from crude oil. Crude oil is, it's taken out from underground. It's a fossil fuel. When it comes out, it's all dirty, thick, and all. What else can come from crude oil? Well, we get diesel, we get petrol, we get high octane, but we also get petroleum jelly, which most people put on their feet or hands when they are feeling very dry. And also, if you think of diesel and petrol or high octane, it also is it's fuel, but it's extracted from the same thing. Or when in terms of if you are a farmer and you have a cow, you can have milk from it. You can also slaughter it for meat, and you can also sell off its byproduct, which is manure for fertilizers. So accordingly, people price these things as well. That if I'm going to get something out of it, let's charge different prices for all these things according to the demand. And then finally, we have product bundle pricing, which is you see every day when you go to a fast food restaurant. You can buy a menu or you can buy things separately. But when you buy in a menu, it costs you somewhat less. Similarly, it's also in your computers. When you buy a computer, usually there's an offer. You can buy Microsoft Office and get an antivirus for a low price of, let's say, $60. Because if you buy it separately, it'll cost you $150, plus the antivirus will cost you $30, plus there'll be subscription. So they're bundling everything together in a way that allows them to, of course, have a win-win situation with all consumers. Going ahead. Come on. Sorry about that little bit of technological glitch, but you know, I should have gotten a Mac. No, no way. Anyways, there are various types of price adjustment strategies. Why do we adjust price? Well, according to demand, and everything is, remember, about the consumer. It's not about the price, it's about the cost to the consumer. Here are 7 ways to adjust your price: discounting, segmenting your pricing, meaning according to the segment you're targeting, you price accordingly. Psychological pricing, meaning according to the perception of the consumer and what they're expecting, we price it accordingly. Promotional pricing happens when we're trying to promote or sell our product to the max. So therefore, we change the pricing strategy. Maybe we lower the cost, of course, just to, or we use market skimming techniques as well. Geographic pricing is how do we sell or deliver products and then add a price to it. So most of you buy things online, and you might also see that they say 20 euros or above, or $20 above, we won't charge you anything. Or if you're in a different location, we'll charge you extra. That is geographic pricing. Dynamic pricing happens every day. It's related to maybe buying vegetables or fruits. It happens when you're reserving a hotel or booking a flight. Prices change every day. And then, of course, international pricing. Why does a McDonald's meal cost 8 euros in France and it only costs $5 in the US? Well, due to international issues such as taxes, tariffs, what do you call, of course, the buying power of the consumer as well. Let's discuss this in the next slide. Let's discuss the two most simplest types of pricing adjustment, which is discounts and allowances and segmented pricing. Discounting is lowering your price to increase promotions and sales and to get customers to buy your material. And it can use price market penetration techniques, but this is for the product mix. So your product already exists. Maybe you need to push it further into the market. Allowances are similar to discounts, that maybe people can redeem certain points for purchasing your product or for maybe something else. And there's something like frequent flyer miles or certain privilege points you could redeem to buy another DVD or a t-shirt. Very simple stuff. But segmented pricing is a little more tricky. Now, segment pricing works very well with products such as a water bottle from Avion or from Vitel. You have the big 2 liter family pack or 1.5 liters in a big 6 pack bundle, which you can take home. But now most people, in Paris, they commute a lot, they walk a lot, and we have a lot of tourists. So maybe Avion thought it's good to have a smaller water bottle available, maybe in vending machines, which are cold and all. So they made smaller water bottles, but when they offer them, they're priced slightly higher in terms of volume. So maybe you're paying 50 cents for 1.5 liter, but you might be paying 65 cents for 500 milliliter, which sounds counterintuitive, but for the consumer is the convenience that they're looking for. They can carry that water bottle, which is not that big, around with them when they're commuting. And based on this, you have to be very careful that when you are trying to develop new products of the same version, if or in terms of different sizes, the market must be segmentable. If it's not segmentable, do not attempt it. You'll just incur more cost of production because producing a smaller water bottle is actually more costly than producing a bigger one. The segments must show a different degree of demand. Now, we know that people in Paris they commute a lot, and therefore they would prefer carrying a smaller water bottle. I know I do. I always carry a water bottle because my commute is for 2 hours back and forth. So I don't want to carry 1.5 liter. I prefer carrying 500 milliliters worth of water. And we must not try to cheat the customer, which at some points they do. For example, when you walk into the airport or when you go to Disney World and you have to buy water, a small water bottle or Coca-Cola, it's a bloomin' 3.5 euros. And you're like, why is it so highly priced? Well, you can't buy anything else. They're exclusive dealership over there, so they too also charge their price. Yeah, airports. So that's how, and try to keep it in a legal aspect. Otherwise, people tend to get really upset, and they might even sue you, or even not just the consumers might sue you. There's also protection agencies out there who might also challenge your pricing strategy. Why you're charging such high prices for a commodity? Moving ahead. Now, over here, I don't need to discuss too much because we've discussed this in class as well, but it's very simple. Psychological pricing is what the consumer expects you to price it at. So you do market research, and when you, let's say, want to sell a perfume, such as Chanel number 5, it's for 100 euros. But maybe the product inside the bottle is not even worth 3 euros. But you're still paying 100 euros. Why? Because consumer expect it to be a luxury brand. Therefore, they charge exuberant prices. Okay. The second part is you can use reference pricing. How much should a water bottle or how much should a Coca-Cola cost? Well, it should cost around 1 euro, 2 euro. So you go back to the same adjustment as price ceiling and price floor. What could be the highest price people are expecting? What could the lowest price people are expecting? What is the average price? And they reference it according to other products in the same category. So, or they can remember past prices, what another product could have been. So, when the iPhone 6s came out, it's priced at 800, just like the iPhone 6, which is priced at close to 700 to 800. So, in that sort of situation, consumers are actually assessing the product's worth in terms of referencing and also in terms of what they expect it to be. Therefore, you should price it at. That's a little bit like value added pricing. Going ahead. Now, promotional pricing is there are many types. One is that you could have one certain type of product, and you could price it really low to increase your brand's market share. We call that a loss leader, meaning having one product sell at a very low price, maybe even at a loss, just to increase your market share. Now, most companies have done this before. They usually do it during the holiday season. And that's why a lot of video game consoles and all those their price sometimes a little lower, just to get the market share. But loss leaders are initially they really go at a loss. That's why they call loss leader. They become the leader in the market, and the company gets their brand market share all over the place, and they can take advantage of brand loyalty afterwards. The special event pricing could be like for Christmas or for any special holiday, for Valentine's, when you lower the prices. And cash rebates are those where you can offer company people to return a product and get some money on it. Like recently, Microsoft launched Easy Trade Up, which is when you return a product, like when you return a MacBook, an old MacBook, they'll give you $300 for it. So what are you guys waiting for? Throw away that old Mac. And low interest financing is maybe something like, I would say, when you do buy a product on credit, they say if you pay instead of on the 30th day or the end of the month, if you pay 10 days earlier, we'll give you 2 to 5% discount. That's 2 by 10 and 30 days net. Well, I don't really need to discuss much over here because it's not very relevant to the product market over here, but it can happen when you have a loan or you buy a car on a loan, or you have a mortgage and you want to pay up earlier on, so which is in the interest of the seller. You can also offer longer warranties. Instead of a 1 year warranty on your computer, you can have a 3 year warranty, just so it may look more lucrative. And also offering free maintenance. If you, for cars, for example, in the first year, you have free maintenance. You can go to directly to the actual brand's garage, such as Volkswagen Garage. You can get free oil check, free car, filter change, etc., etc. That help somehow increases also the promotion of the product, so people feel that they're getting their money's worth. Now, here's a problem. If you use promotional pricing too much, people can become deal prone, meaning they only come to your shop or your to buy your brand when there is a discount, which is very dangerous. So you're making deal breakers and you're not creating customer loyalty. And this will also create price wars with your competitors. This happened with Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola in my country, where they started reducing the price to really, really low prices, which caused them losses. And they both had to sit down and say, you know what, we have to price it equivalently so we don't get into another price war, which can cause losses for us and loss of the industry. And we don't want that. All right, moving ahead. Now for geographical pricing, there are five of them, which is free on board, uniformed, zone, base point, and freight absorption. Geographical pricing is mainly based on delivery mode. How are you delivering your product to the end consumer? Free on board pricing means that the goods are delivered to the carrier and the title and responsibility is given to the customer. So when the product, or I would say the package, arrives at the doorstep of the consumer, they have to pay for tax, duties, and any additional pricing for delivery, which is not highly used with big companies, but small companies who wish to deliver their product across the world or just within their country usually do this because they can't afford to cover pricing, or I would say the cost of delivery on their own. Due to their, of course, small size and business nature. But uniform delivery pricing means that company charges the same price uh, regardless of where you are. So, for example, Amazon in France charges only 1 cent for delivery of books in France only. It's meaning all over France. That's due to the law of France. They imposed this because it was becoming very monopolistic for Amazon. It was beating out competition because it was free delivery charges. That is zero. It costs zero to even deliver for them. So they imposed a 1 cent rule, and it cost them nothing. Zone pricing means that company sets up two or more zones where customers within a given zone pay a single total price. Meaning, for example, if I am in the Paris zone 1, or Paris has 5 zones, so we can use that as a great example. People might just have to pay €5 for delivery. But if I'm in zone 3 or above, I might have to pay, let's say, €10 for delivery of a certain product. But if I'm outside of Paris zone 5, which is further beyond, like Ile-de-France, or which is like Chantilly, and all these far off places, like where I live, I might have to pay €20 for delivery only in those zones. So they can also have different zones across the city to meet with the needs of the consumer. Basing point pricing means that a seller selects a city as a base point. So let's say if I want to deliver my products all over France, I could make the hub maybe Lyon, Marseille, or even Paris. And from there on, I will charge the customer or freight cost from regardless of the city they are. Okay, so I just select one city and from there I deliver everywhere. Or I don't have to deliver from one city. I could be delivering from two or three different cities, but I'm just charging them money according to the cost incurred from Paris only. Um, some companies do this, which makes it pricing easier for them, and price transparency is also good for the consumer. But if they show too much price transparency, I'm sorry, if they show too much price transparency, they could be also bad for the business, because consumers might say, why are you charging us a higher price and the others a lower price? Which comes to the last part. To make everything easier, there's freight absorption pricing, meaning the seller, they absorb all the costs of delivering the product or this package to the business. Now it says business is not in terms of consumer can be a business too. So if they want to increase their market share in a certain segment, they could give an incentive that all delivery is free. That way, people far off will plan to buy off, like say, from the internet and have it delivered to them instead of just buying it from the store, which could be really good for the company as well, that they could target places further than their own. And they said there are no extra charges. This could be used as a very good promotional gimmick as well. Moving ahead, I spoke about dynamic pricing, and you guys experience this every day as well, in terms of buying vegetables and fruits and all, which are prices change every day, or even booking a flight. Why is one flight more expensive than the one next day? Such as if you're going to book a flight for Friday and come back on Monday, which is the most expensive. So why is that so? Because of demand. As per demand fluctuates every day, so even companies change their prices every day. And similarly, you can also apply this to a situation in the sense that why does the same flight, which has a first class, cost $4,000 with a regular flight economy seat that costs 1,000? Now you may argue, oh, the first class has more comfort, more room, they get treated well, but in reality, it costs the company, the airline company, not so much to treat a person for first class as it does for economy. It's just a little bit more. They're just serving them food and wine and all, but it costs them relatively not peanuts. But that's the same thing. They're dynamically priced, even their seats, just accordingly, and they make bundles more money with business class and first class than they would with a regular seat. So those are also part of dynamic pricing, and their pricing changes across the board and across time as well. Now, international pricing, we've all experienced this in terms of we can take McDonald's. McDonald's has got something called the Big Mac Burger Index, International Big Mac Index, where they price their Big Mac according to the country they're in. Why is the Big Mac more expensive here in France than from the country of origin, the US? Well, here are some reasons. There's economic conditions. France is a socialist country. We pay more taxes. In the US, the issue could be there's a lot of competition, so they have to keep their prices low. And it also could be related to the infrastructure, how we hire, recruit people, how much we have to pay them. And at the end of the day, it's also the company's marketing objective. In France, the way McDonald's has built its brand is that it's not the same as the way it's built its brand in the US. Over here, they have McCafe, and they try to pose it as more greener. In the US, it's more of a fast food, it's a little more greasier. Sorry to stereotype, but that's how people perceive it as well. And fast food doesn't have a great reputation here in France. So therefore, they had to change their strategy and try to make it a little more premium, because they had to compete with sandwicheries and also the local Quick Burger, which is a Belgian company, and so on and so forth. Moving ahead. Now, why do price change? What are the reasons price could change as well? Now, if you've learned economics, you know about supply and demand. If there's excess supply, or as we say, excess capacity, usually companies have to reduce their costs to meet demand, because there's not sufficient demand. So we have to lower prices to meet the low demand, and of course remove the excess capacity. But we could also lower cost, which is a market penetration technique, to increase the market share, to push our product into the market, so people are not just forced to buy but psychologically say that, oh, right now the cost is low, why don't we buy it right now? Or we shouldn't wait till the price increases. Usually happens when there's a new phone launch and they price it with a package with the telecommunication company, such as Boy Telecom or Free or Orange, and they say initial price is low, buy right now, 50% off, just to get the market penetration done. But conversely, price increase happens from inflation, which is an economic term, or also increase in demand. The more people want it, the more you can increase the price. But you shouldn't increase the price exuberantly. However, Apple has done this. Apple knows that there's high demand for their products, therefore they priced it higher as well. And it also can happen from lack of supply. This can also be resulting in something called when there's low food, no food around, when there's a famine, people are willing to pay a large price for even a loaf of bread. That's what's economics in what happened in World War II. People would pay like 10,000, what do you call it, Deutschmark just to get bread. Or you get the point, right? I don't want to make it so. Anyways, but the point, it also means that if there's some deficiency of any sort of product in the market, or like for example, gold is also a good example. Price increases because gold is a rare mineral, or I would say rare metal. Therefore, you can also increase the price, or the market increases it as it is. It's called, we have the bullion market for that, just like we have the stock market. Moving ahead. What are the buyer's reactions when the price changes? Now, if the price goes up a lot, people might think that, oh, the product is really good or hot, as I say, just like jewelry, luxury products, and all those things. But if it's not a luxury company and they're hiking their prices too much, such as commodity products, such as getting food items and all those things, people might think the company is getting greedy and just trying to make more money out of them. Conversely, if company reduces the price, people might think that, okay, this model of phone or computers, they might not be produced again, therefore they're trying to get rid of it, which is very true for the technological, or I would say digital market. When products are going out of production, they try to push the product into the market as much as possible by reducing the price to give an incentive for, I would say, removing their closing inventory, which is same for the fashion industry, where they have also put promotions and sales and discount, or closing discount, clearance sales, and all those things for fashion that will no longer be available. Or people might think the other way around as well. You know what? I don't think so. They're doing well, therefore they might have lowered the prices, or they might have quality issues, therefore they're selling it for cheap. Well, that's how the human mind works, and we have to be careful not to decrease our prices too much or increase it for too long. We have to stay within the perception and the demands of the customer, as well as how they perceive our products to be. When responding to price changes, please ask yourself these following questions. If your competition has changed their price, why did they do it? Did they increase their price? Did they lower their price? What are they trying to do? So you have to step into the shoes of the competition and try to figure out what type of strategy are they trying to pursue. Is the price cut permanent or temporary, from the competition side or even from your side? Would you like to keep the prices low, uh, or would you like to uh, build up after that? Usually, it should matter to your consumer first. That if you're going to keep low prices, is it a permanent thing? You should make that announcement that we are doing a low price strategy. For example, the iPhone 5C, when it was built for the BRICS market, it was a low cost leader in a way, and they wanted to keep it that way. So all the 5Cs, permanently had a lower price compared to their cousin, the iPhone 5. What effect on the market? What will be the effect on the market share and the price? Will we get more market share? Will we also get into a price war with our competitors or the industry? And how will the competition respond to us? Like, for example, when Apple phone was competing with Samsung, Samsung tried to price it just below the premium price of the iPhone. So iPhone also had to target for the BRICS market because that's where Samsung's strength were. And then Samsung tried to target the high-end market in the US, and they launched the Note 3. They even used superstars with the Samsung Love Technique, and celebrities in they were targeted in the what do you call, the Golden Globes and the Emmys and also the Oscar awards. Everyone knows the big selfie that Bradley Cooper took, or whatever his name is, along with Ellen DeGeneres and all those people. So they went the other way as well. So competition also responds to the market and to you. Solutions could be, you can reduce price to match competition, which is a very non-savvy technique, but sometimes it works. You can also maintain the price, but raise the perceived value through communication, which Apple does. It didn't lower its costs, but they launched a new product instead. But they kept the same prices for the other products, and it launched advertisements trying to say that you're part of the Apple lifestyle. You could also improve the quality of your product and then increase price, which is the iPhone 6s, or when they launched the iPad Pro to compete with the Microsoft Surface Pro. But they say it's a bigger iPad. It's got a stylus with it, which is cost $99, which is called the iPencil. Ironic, isn't it? But you can do that. You can improve your quality because people pay for quality and perceived quality with, of course, the right price. And we already discussed the low fighting brand that Apple launched, such as the iPhone 5C, but other companies do the same. They also have low price fighting brands to get market shares. For example, if you're selling a car like the Golf has a smaller version of itself. It's called the Polo, which is a low fighting brand. Polo is very popular in the market, and people, when they see the brand Volkswagen moving around on the Polo with the emblem, they say, you know what, maybe the Golf is a better version, maybe the Passat is a better version. So having a low price fighting brand is like a walking talking billboard, and it works as well. Going ahead. Now here's a diagram that can help you and to take some pricing within the channels, which is your channels are basically your distributor, your supplier, your retailers, and all those things. And they too also have a benefit when you raise or lower prices, or you could also say the other way around, they have a disadvantage. So if here's a flow chart which says if you have cut, let me use the cool little marker here. If you have cut the prices, your competition has cut prices. If it says no, you just hold the current price and continue to monitor competition. But if they have, will you lower prices? It depends. You can hold the current price, or you could do one of two things. You said, can I take an action? Yes, I can. I can also reduce price. I can either receive perceived value. I could also increase the quality and increase price, which is also perceived value. Or I could completely launch a new product in order to compete with them, but not lower the value of my current product and promotion or my market offer. Well, so let me just erase this. Moving ahead. I'm not going to discuss too much about channels and everything, but here's something you must know. When you are selling to various channels or intermediaries or retailers, price fixing is a big issue in the sense that according to the negotiations that you have done with your retailer or your intermediary, you set a certain price. And if you set various different pricing margins and profit margins with many different sellers and retailers, that can cause a backlash in terms of partnerships. So we have to be careful that we don't try to sell below a certain cost and with intention of killing up competition. And there's protection for those type of things as well, such as when we faced the issue of Uber in France, that the government supported the taxi drivers, that it was a predatory pricing. The taxi industry is suffering. In my opinion, not really. But then again, there are a lot of laws and acts that exist according to different countries. The one in the US is the Robinson-Patman Act that prevents unfair price discrimination by ensuring that the seller offers the same price terms to customers at any given level of trade. And I don't want to discuss too much about this because this is related to ethics. There's a whole topic of business ethics that you can take up in the school, which discusses these issues. So I'll move ahead to the next slide. Well, be careful also with these things, with deceptive pricing offers. That's why most companies, they open up something called a warehouse or a destockage, as I say, like where you can remove their any unwanted inventory. So the pricing over there is way more lower than the actual price in the retail because they no longer are part of the fashion, or they're no longer part of the new trend. So therefore, most companies, they buy out old stock, then they sell it at warehouses or destocking companies, or even online on discounts where you can find things such as on eBay or in Craigslist and all those. Um, I'll move ahead because this is not a topic I wish to discuss. And let's summarize. In the end, we discussed the major pricing strategy when you're launching a new product, which is price skimming. You charge a higher price, and then with time you lower it. You launch a product with a very low price, such as Asus, and then initially you had a low price, and slowly and steadily, when you get market share and customer loyalty, brand engagement, you then raise the prices because you have to change the perception of your product too. We discussed price adjustments as well, when we have to adjust prices according to competition, according to customers' demand, and according to promotion sales, or according to our own objectives. And the reasons for price changes and should mainly come from competition and also demand. At the heart of it all, pricing is one of the four P's of marketing that generates money. However, you must always look at the two C's of marketing, which is cost to the consumer in terms of psychological cost, in terms of search costs. And the second thing is competition. How are they reacting? Because you don't live in a bubble. And if you do live in a bubble, you should not be doing marketing. Anyways, thanks for listening. I'll send you more material to read and listen to. Hope you enjoyed my voice. Bye bye.